Schools reopen today across schools. Daily face-to-face classes will be conducted only for the graduating cohorts of Primary 6 and Secondary 4 and 5. Those in Primary 4 and 5 and Secondary 1 and 2 were also at school today, but they will rotate weekly, with students from the remaining batches between home-based learning and having lessons in class.
During a visit to Xingnan Primary School this morning, Education Minister Ong Kang said it's a good time to reopen schools given that it could be a year or more before COVID-19 vaccine is found and since there are currently few new cases in the community.
For our children, the impact on their growing up will be very severe in terms of their mental, character, social, emotional development. That will be very, very drastic. And we must remember education is really not just about taking exam and getting the grades. It's about their whole character and social emotional development. And we cannot deprive a whole generation of that experience. The impact is on the whole generation.
Xingnan Primary saw 96% attendance today, and Minister Ong said teething issues were expected as students return after 2 months with new rules in place.
Watching everything is orderly, it's very calm. You can see a palpable sense of enthusiasm amongst the teachers and the students that they are coming back to school. When I'm around, they are more quiet, but once I leave, they are actually very excited. So I think it all is going quite well. Attendance rate, I just asked the principal, he told me 96% for those that are supposed to come back. So actually that is very high for a term start and also very encouraging. It shows that people do want to come back to school.
Tightened safety measures at Xingnan Primary include designated toilets, wipe-down routines and mandatory wearing of face shields or masks.
We have to wear the mask. That's a big difference for me because I'm not very used to wearing a mask and it's more suffocating. You can't breathe well and it also makes you more warm.
We already got masks made by our school uniform vendor. For our students, we want them to have different kinds of colors. We want the students to personalize their masks, put buttons, maybe put ribbons, put their name. So if you own the mask, then perhaps you will want to use it.
So as schools resume classes today, let's talk about this new normal for students with journalist Jolene Ang and education correspondent Amelia Teng. Jolene, I'll start with you. You were at Xingnan Primary School with Minister Ong. He mentioned there was bound to be teething issues. What did you observe?
Okay, so today, early in the morning, when we were all there, the teachers were actually standing around the entrance of the school to remind students to remember to keep a space between each other when they were walking in. And the teachers were also checking to see if the kids were wearing their mask correctly. So for example, there were some who had worn the mask just below the nose, so they didn't cover the nose. So the teachers would stop them and teach them the correct way to wear the mask. So the school had also come up with different routes for each cohort to get to their classrooms. So because the P4, 5 and 6ers were back in school today, there were different signages and even physical barriers to minimize any possible interaction between students as they made their way to their classrooms for assembly. And I think for the toilets, there are also designated toilets for each cohort.
How about you, Amelia? You accompanied a Primary 6 student from Jingshan Primary School today. What did you take note of?
I think for me, what stood out to me was the sheer number of rules and measures to remember. So the form teachers spent in the morning they had the assembly and then they took the pledge in the classroom, and the principal gave a Zoom speech to all the classes, and then it was followed by only 1 hour briefing of all the different measures. And there's a really long list of measures that they have to remember, and I don't remember them myself. But everything pointed to the kids always needing to have a personal bubble, like a personal bubble of space around them wherever they went throughout the whole day. So meal times, they have to if they don't bring food from home, they go to the canteen and they
Yep.
sit in according to register numbers. If they are eating in the classroom, they have to sit in single file while eating. And the strange thing is that they can't talk to their friends, so they're eating in silence. And
Oh dear.
yeah, so it's a scene that I've never seen before during a recess, which is meant to be something like where the kids usually all are running about, and but this was very different. Another thing that stood out to me was the PE lesson.
Yep.
So usually PE you will have like group activities like captain's ball or soccer or whatever, but for today's PE lesson, they also had that personal bubble of space. So they were simply like in one spot learning how to dribble basketball. So they had to queue to get the ball. Then they had to wipe the ball, they had to sanitize their hands, and then they actually did not move from that spot during the whole PE lesson. So
I see.
yeah, I mean, it's that personal space that they're really trying to inculcate in the kids now.
Right. Well, Jolene, back to you. Did you speak to any of the students over at Xingnan Primary School? We heard from Amelia that I guess the measures at Jingshan didn't really allow for any socialization among the students. Did you observe anything different?
Yeah, so one pupil that I spoke to said that she was happy to be able to spend more time with her family in the past 2 months with the circuit breaker and also with the May holiday. But she was also happy to be back at school, to see her teachers and her friends and learn together with them in class. But I think one thing that a lot of the kids brought up was that they had to make some adjustments to their interaction with each other. So maybe previously when they see each other in school, after a long break, they would hug each other or they would tap each other's shoulders in greeting. But now they can't do that, so they just do things like wave to each other from a distance. And I think some others also said that having to wear the mask is something that takes some getting used to, especially when you have to wear it almost the entire day, only when you're eating or when you're having PE lessons, exercising. So I think for the kids, they feel that it's quite uncomfortable. One of them actually described it as suffocating. And it's a bit hard to breathe, and it can also make them feel a bit warm throughout the day. Yeah.
Well, other primary and secondary school cohorts return to school next week, and they'll alternate between school and home-based learning every week. So, Amelia, from what you saw today, can schools cope, you think, with safe distancing with more students in school? Do the schools have the space?
I think so. Today, yeah, it was just the upper primary level that the school I was at. But because it was only upper primary, so not all the teachers are back in school yet. The rest of them were still at home doing home-based learning. But when more students come back, yeah, it will be, I think, a little bit more challenging to maintain that personal space, more students, more teachers around. But the teachers will be the ones to constantly try to encourage and enforce that safe distancing measures. So they are doing things like staggered dismissal timings, having different gates designated to different classes. So I think while it will be challenging, the schools will be able to cope. I mean, they will have to with more students coming back.
Right. Well, Jolene, for parents still worried about their children returning to school, do you think the measures in schools are well managed to allay those fears? Did Minister Ong say anything to that effect?
I think for parents, because we've been speaking to quite a number of them over the past few weeks, one big concern for them is how the schools will be enforcing social distancing and things like making them wear masks, making sure they don't mingle with each other, because I mean, a lot of times they say kids will be kids, and it may be hard to force them to follow certain rules. But from what I've seen today, the schools have been prioritizing explaining the rationale for certain rules to the kids instead of making them blindly follow them. And the teachers have also been, they appear to be very present to remind the kids, at least from what I saw today. And also for the mask wearing, the principal of the school that I went to today, Xingnan Primary, right? The principal actually said that they're trying to come up with fun ways to get kids to wear the mask, and even if it may be uncomfortable, maybe they can have fun doing so. So they are actually planning to get the students to decorate their own masks. So they ordered a bunch of masks from the school uniform vendor, and then they're planning to let the students personalize their own mask so that they have some ownership, and they see the mask as part of the new normal life. Yeah. So the schools are being very careful, and that is also one reason why the reopening is being done in phases, prioritizing the graduating cohort. And the hope is that schools will be able to adjust and get used to the measures over a month or so, and finally be able to have everyone back together. And the other thing that Minister Ong said, the school reopening is also partly to help parents as we exit the circuit breaker, with some parents having to go back to work, and they might need a safe environment for their kids. So, some kids might be restless after this 2 months of staying at home, and they might want to go out more. So instead of having them go out sort of unsupervised, it might be better to have them in school with supervision from the teachers and the staff. So I think that was also a good point.
Well, thanks for that, Jolene. So let's shift our focus now to preschools. Amelia, about 75,000 kindergarten 1 and 2 children were set to return to their preschools today as well. What sort of operational changes that some preschools have made?
So there are many changes, especially for preschools, from the drop-off to the pickup and everything in between. During classes, they used to have like bigger group activities, and now all that has been suspended. Now the kids will take turns between different activities. Some of them could do activities on the floor, then the others will do on a tabletop. Meal routines, shower routines, nap time has also changed. They've suspended full shower routine, and now they only do it on a case-by-case basis, and only when it's needed, like when the kid has spilled food on himself. For meals, there are also limits as to how many kids can be at a table at one shot. So many changes. Also for teachers can now only manage up to 2 each, meaning you cannot you have to minimize contact with children, and especially children from other classes, and staff cannot eat in groups. To minimize contact, you can only eat in your own classroom or your own work bay. No face-to-face meetings. So many restrictions that they have to get used to. School has reopened, but it's not really the same as it used to be. We've been speaking to many preschool educators over the last few weeks, and I think besides all the logistics and operations, COVID has also affected learning in a way because of all the constraints. So in terms of learning, there's very little outdoor play now that the children can go. They don't have that kind of flexibility to use outdoor spaces. So I think one of the St. James principals was saying that now this is a chance to kind of like imagine what learning is, and to think of creative solutions to substitute what they can't do anymore. So I think that stood out to me as well, because in a pandemic like this, we tend to think of things more negatively, and what we can't do, what we are not allowed to do anymore. But they as educators are trying to think out and to think of solutions to let the kids continue learning, but within the constraints. So for instance, like outdoor play, they're thinking of simulating indoors by using like virtual projections, of settings like a forest or a beach, and then you can get the kids to role play, dig some sand. And birthday cake celebrations, things that used to be like quite big things in preschools, now they're not allowed. They can't even give out goodie bags anymore. So the teachers are also trying to think of how to make these moments special for the kids. Even if the parents can't come into school, maybe they can plan surprises with the teachers, behind the kids' back, or record video clips, play birthday songs in the center. So the preschools are trying to get around the problem by thinking of it not as a problem, but a way to
thinking outside the box, I guess. All right. Well, Amelia and Jolene, thank you so much for taking the time. I've been speaking to education correspondent Amelia Teng, as well as journalist Jolene Ang. Schools reopen today as Singapore starts phase 1.